Hey, how's it going? Um, alright, so it's been a while, as always. And just gonna talk about some things, well, three things, but yeah, hopefully I can cover it all. I like, and when you take a look at different people, when you take a look at what shapes them, right? You can identify certain things like experiences, which I think that's a big one. Another thing is who they are, so their physical attributes or their physical appearance, their face, whatever. And then one of that is gender, right? And these things, to a large degree, affect our experiences, right? And so, I guess, because of these, we become who we are. So, say, for example, if I was a woman, I'd have a different life. I have by now different experiences, obviously. Consequently, like, if any given woman were instead a man, lived life as a man, they would have had different experiences, made different decisions. And then, even as a man or as a woman, your appearance kind of affects your experiences, right? And so it's kind of, it's just the cards that you're dealt with, right? And your biology also shapes your, I guess, your attitude, your character, your appearance, and consequence, your experiences. So, with that being said, what is a true reflection of who you are? So for example, if we have these things that affect our experiences in our life, how do you know who a person is really? Because who we are, the world treats us, differently depending on who we are, right? So that's interesting. That's interesting because you may think some things are your fault, but actually they might not be, right? You can't really change. I mean, you can change your gender now, but it's not that easy, and also it's not, well, you can't keep changing it, I'd say. Well, let's just assume that we can't really change it easily, like back and forth, you can't switch. So I was wondering, is there a way to know the true person? Say if you were to take away someone's gender, first of all, what would that person be like? If you were to take away their gender, just maybe even their physical attributes, like their face or something, what are you left with? Actually, physically, you can't do it, but just as maybe a thought experiment, how do you know who someone really is beneath all that? And because the external environment keeps, affecting us, so it's like causing, so like we change the environment changes us, environment changes us depending on who we are, people treat us differently depending on who they're, talking to, or like if I were talking to a man or a woman, I'd be saying different things. So what is the real, how's it, this real person, if you subtract the effects of the external environment on this person, how do you know who this person is? Is there a way? I think there is. So it's the values of the person and the work that they do. So the work not in the traditional like professional sense. Work, you could say it's the work that they do. You could say it, although there's some work like where if it's like for like the fashion show, you kind of have to be a woman. But the work that you do is a reflection of your values, right? So I think that person's values are a true reflection of that person, right? And so I don't know if you'll agree with me on that, but if you really want to know who someone is, your best bet is to have them be honest with you about their values. I'm not saying their goals, their desires, just what they think is important, right? And what they think is important, if possible, without what the world has taught them is important. So it's difficult. It's difficult to even know this, because if you ask someone, well, what are your values, and you assume that your work is a reflection of your values, that would be the ideal case, but mostly it's not. A lot of people can't live by their values, right? But I feel like that's the closest we can get to know someone. Why do you do what you do, right? Now, here's the thing. So I'm moving on to my second thing. Because I was thinking about, what a person is and all that. I realized that there might not even be this idea of an individual, right? So who are we really, right? Like, we're just an expression in the base, at the base level, the culmination of our genes, right? Of genetics, everything. And I can't think of a counterexample to this. Everything is just who we are. Everything that we are is just because of our genes. What I like, what I do, what my values are, what I look like, it's all just genetics. And even even what we think, our thoughts, are influenced completely by our genetics. How we react in certain situations, it's all dictated by our genetics. So who am I really? This idea that that I have my own thoughts, and my thoughts are like generated by me, and my thoughts are affected by my genetics. So I asked someone, they were like, apparently we don't, this idea of this me being me is like, and me making these choices and stuff, that's just, you may think that I'm an individual, I'm doing this, but actually it's just genes, right? My genes are completely responsible for my thoughts. And the person was like, and I was like, well, apparently it's just our parents' genes. So I'm just, I think I'm an individual, but I'm just a sort of copy of my parents, right? And the person I was talking to said, you are unique because your genes are different. Like you get like 50% from your mom, 50% from your dad. And I was like, yeah, but it's still, you're just proving my point. It's the genes that make me who I am. I may think that I've made me, but actually it's my genes, and which they affect everything. So then what the fuck, right? Like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a counterexample? I don't know. It's ridiculous, really, that this idea of an individual sense of self exists even, and people aren't told that, hey, actually, I'm sorry, but who you are is not your choice. I mean, it was decided at birth what you would be like, what you would think like, choices that you make, when you would crumble, when you would give in, what you'd be good at, right? It's ridiculous. Why is it like this? I mean, in an ideal scenario, we all would be able to pick who we are, what we like ourselves to be, and then just be it. But we can't, right? And it's ridiculous. What was the point of doing things like this? It just seems like some kind of sick experiment to I guess Darwin wrote about it in Theory of Evolution, Survival of the Fittest. In each region or in each geographical place, the genes that are fittest for propagating would propagate. But I mean, honestly, this idea of the individual, like, you want to know who a person is? Look at their parents. So there you have it. I mean, you don't have to beat yourself up over any individual choices or any choices that you make as an individual, your thoughts as an individual, when really it's beyond your control. It's not a good thought. I'm gonna try changing my camera placement. See if this is better. It's not a good thought because we want to take pride in our decisions. I made me. You know, I did the hard work. I studied hard, or I'm working hard as an athlete. When really everything that you like and dislike that draws you to a certain thing, shaped by your genetics, your values, why'd you decide to do what you do? It's all just genetics, man. And the third, I'll move on to the third thing. It's been 15 minutes already? Dude, what the fuck? Well, the third thing, shit, now look, I forgot what the third thing was. Yeah. All right, great. So genetics, right? I covered that. Now the thing is, okay. I asked why is it like this, right? Darwin's. Well, it just is like that, right? No one decided it to be like this. And a lot of times when you talk about no one decided to be like this, we accepted that okay, things are the way they are, and then the question comes in of there being some sort of intelligent creator behind all of this, right? Of God, spirituality, blah, blah, blah. Someone must have made it like this, someone must have created it, blah, 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 blah. Trevor. And recently, an idea, well, not recently, but look, the idea of God's existed forever, like basically, and we always worship some sort of higher power, like, you know. And recently, or not recently, like in the modern decade, this idea of reality being a simulation has come up. Oh, it's like we're in a computer simulation being simulated by this, you know, higher intelligence, and we're just like living in a program, and we're programs, right? So we're not real beings. We're just in like some really high fidelity simulation. I'm gonna say two things to actually kind of prove that we are in a simulation. The first part. So there's two parts. The first part, I'm gonna touch upon the existing ways that people, the existing ways why people say we are in a simulation. And the second part, I'll give my own. You could call it like proofs. They're kind of like, you know, you'll just see what they are. So the first part, why people currently believe we are in a simulation, is because right now we're actually getting better at creating simulations ourselves. So, you know, video games are getting better. Our computing power as a species is growing, and eventually we'll be able to simulate the physical forces in the world and people and decisions they make and their feelings really, really, really well. So we are definitely getting to a point where we'd be able to simulate something like this world. And so if we'd be able to do it in time, isn't it possible that someone else has created the simulation that we're in? So the probability of us living in a base reality, and this was, you know, an idea recently popularized by Nick Bostrom and sort of popularized by Elon Musk, is that the idea that we are in base reality is really low. If there can exist any number of simulation within simulation within simulation, all the way down, the probability that we are in a base reality, the one that actually is not being simulated. That is actually the first one to create a simulation of some kind is really low. And so that's the first argument. It's just that probability that we are in true base reality is extremely low. So that's the first argument. And if you think about it, well, how would you ascertain that you are in a simulated reality? Well, if you are in a simulated reality, you can't. There's a chance it's an exact. There's a chance it's an exact, perfect replication of its of the reality that created it, right? That the program is so good that it's completely able to replicate the, let's say, the level over it. So let's say if n is the base, no, if 0 is the starting reality, and reality 0 creates a simulation, let's call it reality 1, then there's a probability that reality 1 is a perfect copy of reality 0, or there's also a chance that it's not a perfect copy. So now you have this idea of a perfect copy and not a perfect copy. Eventually, as you go, so reality 0 creates a simulation, then reality 1 creates a simulation, reality 2. So 0 created it, and then, okay, they're running a program, which is reality 1, reality 1's running a program, which is reality 2, reality 2 is running a program, that's reality 3. As these simulations accrue, you would begin to see, say for example, in reality 4, which started by reality 3, which started by reality 2, which started by reality 1, which started by reality 0. In reality 4, you would see things that are inexplicable, that are unexplainable. Say for example, the natural laws, you just wouldn't be able to explain them because sometimes they'd work, sometimes they wouldn't. So there'd be like glitches basically in the reality. So can we see, do we know that there are glitches in our reality? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. And I don't know if anyone ever told you this, but the answer is yes. There are things in our reality that we cannot explain. The number one reason, number one thing is, where the fuck do we come from? Where does all this come from? If we were in reality 0, we would be able to know what started reality 0 with a greater likelihood than if we are in reality, in a simulated reality. And that's simple enough, right? But we don't know where the fuck we come from. Like, what made all this, right? And the other way of knowing it is, of there being sort of glitches, is the laws of physics, right? More specifically, quantum reality, quantum mechanics. It broke our understanding of, like, I'd say classical physics, but also, and taught us new things, but also things in quantum mechanics just do not make sense. They cannot be explained. They're just inexplicable. Why do these things occur? And there you have it. So the first, popularized by Bostrom, of us simply living in a base reality, the probability of that being really small, that's the reason why people believe we're in a simulated reality. And the other two that I mentioned, that we, first of all, we don't even know where we come from. That's another reason why we live in a simulated reality. And the other reason that I gave is, there are things in our reality we cannot explain because they break the natural laws, which is, quantum mechanics, quantum reality. So there you have it, guys. We're living in a simulated reality, but I want to give you a fourth reason. So I've given, Bostrom's proof is one thing. The other two that I gave, So I'd say Bostrom's like number one, first argument, mine second and third argument. Now the fourth argument, it's kind of really simple. It's really simple, and it's so simple that you may think it's not even an argument. But everything has been designed to bring things together. And examples I will give: gravity. Why does the force of gravity exist? The only reason for the force of gravity to exist is to bring things together. Why do you want to bring things together? You bring things together to see what happens. So if you were to create a simulation and you are now coding up the laws behind the simulation, like the natural laws, right? You're coding up these forces, electrostatic, nuclear forces, electromagnetic forces, nuclear forces. Okay, great. They don't do much on their own. What you do to bring things together, you have the force of gravity. The fact that gravity exists, the only reason for it to exist is to bring things together. Why do you bring things together? To make shit happen. Imagine if gravity didn't exist, you had the Big Bang, and now you have all these rocks floating in space. And sure, some things might happen, but how do you speed up things happening? You put gravity there, boom, rocks start joining, forming stars, forming planets. Shit starts to happen, right? It might take time for us to get where we are here today, billions of years since, probably 14 billion years since the Big Bang. But that's the reason why we're in a simulation, is because of gravity. Now, okay, you solved your first problem. You've brought all these, let's say, raw materials like matter together, energy together, and things are starting to happen in your simulation, right? Eventually, physics becomes chemistry, or rather, biochemistry. Biochemistry becomes biology. You get life, right? You get life. Well, what now? You get life, and you want to see what happens. Life emerges, right? Because of gravity, planets, stars emerge. Matter converges, planets, stars are formed. Now you get life, life emerges, and, well, there's really only two things for that life to do. Either that life is going to aggregate socially, and with that, a lot of interesting things start to happen, like us, right? Or it doesn't aggregate. It lives solo, and it dies solo. Well, if it lives solo, it better replicate somehow, right? Otherwise, it's just gonna end. And even if it does live solo, you can't really get complex behavior out of single, let's say, asocial life. If you want complex behavior, you need to make it social, right? And hello, the fact that we're social is proof that we're in a simulation. The fact that everything in the natural world brings things together. Gravity brings things together. Our biology brings us together. Are proofs that we're actually in a simulation. Because if you were the architect of a simulation, there's a greater probability that you worked together with someone to, first of all, create the simulation, right? It's more likelier. And also, now that you're running a simulation, you want shit to be interesting. You want it to be an interesting simulation. What do? You want whatever happens to be interesting, right? You add in gravity, bring things together. When life emerges, you make it so that they evolve to be social, man. There's a greater probability that a social species is intelligent and also interesting, capable of doing so much. Just take a look at us. Than an asocial one. Take a look at the reptiles, right? The reptiles just bask in the sun. So, okay, I've touched upon how many reasons? I think I've touched upon 4 reasons, right? Of why we're in a simulation. So Bostrom's reason of low of the fact that we're in a base reality being low, that's one reason we're in a simulated reality, more likelier than not. The second and third ones, I kind of forgot already. But the fourth one, I just touched upon. So there you have it, man. Like, we are in a simulation. And there's nothing we can do with that information. But it's just one of those things where even, oh, well, so what? You know, if I'm cut, I still bleed. So it doesn't change a lot. It doesn't change a lot, but maybe it gives you some peace. That the idea of this, what we have of God in its current shape or form. Obviously, it's completely wrong. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I mean, the last reason was really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. No techno terms, nothing like that. I mean, it makes sense, right? That's why you add gravity. That's why you make things converge, and then from that convergence comes emergence, and from that emergence things converge again. Comes another emergence, right? Matter and the Big Bang, dispersed by the Big Bang, came together, formed stars, formed planets. These things converged. On all these planets emerged life, and from that life converged into all these different possibilities: insects, marine life, mammals, reptiles, and then from that, things start to converge as well. And we, mammals, right? We sort of became like, there were like Homo erectus, different branches, and Homo sapiens came, and we just sort of converged, like intelligent life just converged around us. And from us, something else will emerge, which is what? Simulations. Emergence and convergence, that's the only two things that you'll see happening in everything. Culture, right? All of our world's cultures are converging into this one mix of different cultures. People celebrate Christmas, people celebrate, Chinese New Year, people celebrate Diwali, they celebrate, same people. So the culture is converging. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. Just want to get that out there because this one, yeah, it's been on my mind forever. But today I was finally like, all right, let's just get this shit out there. Yeah, I mean, look, it's 34 minutes already. Look, you can either find this idea that we are, despite the proofs, I mean, fuck, this idea that we're in a simulated reality and not base reality. You may find it, depending on if you're a glass half full, glass half empty person, you may find it deflating, or you may find it encouraging, liberating. And I hope, first of all, that it doesn't affect you at all, but also that you're able to live life knowing that death might not be the end. Yeah, I know. Take some comfort in that. Find some solace, some respite. Maybe even some happiness. And finally, I'm going to end it by saying the other reason why we're living in a simulation. Real quick, reason number 5. Was also what I was thinking about, so credits to me for reasons 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is the fact that right now we have these species, and like I said, convergence, emergence, eventually individuals, not just us as human beings, even life itself, other forms of life like animals, they emerge and they start to get power and they converge that power. So power accrues with individuals. And now you have a problem on your hands, which is the thing that lives the longest will have accrued the most power, and it makes things boring. You have to understand from the eye of the people or the things that are running the simulation, they don't want boring. What do you do to solve that problem? That the longer an organism lives, the more likelier it will be successful in accruing power. And once you accrue power, you kind of keep the status quo. Keep the status quo and things don't really change. What do? Well, you create mortal lives. Lives that cannot live forever. The fact that death exists is another proof that we are in a simulation. Imagine if we didn't die, there'd be a bunch of fucking rich assholes just living forever. By now they'd have had their control on most of life. Like, imagine if Elon Musk lived forever. He'd be fucking ruling the world somehow, right? And he'd be dictating things with the resources he's amassed, power he's amassed. And he just like, no, that's fucking boring. How do you level the playing field so that each subsequent generation of organisms has a fair shot at anything? Death. Make it so that the organism cannot live forever. I mean, it's fucking intelligent. Intelligent design. You want to talk about intelligent design? There's gravity, there's social dynamics, and there's death. 100% we're in a simulation. Who knows? Maybe death is the end. More likelier than not, it's not the end. It's just a doorway to another kind of being. Maybe we'll be conscious of who we were in life. this life. Maybe we won't. The fact is, we're going somewhere else after we die. Oh, there's a butterfly here. There's a butterfly. Let me check that out. You see it? Just flew in. Popping on my cigarette. It needs food. Sorry, I don't have food, only food for thought. It's a beautiful one. That's flown off. So there you go, man. Like, I'm gonna end the video here, but I gave you 5 reasons why we're in a why we're living in a simulation, right? Until next time, stay fit, stay fresh, don't stress, alright?